Hello. Are we live?
Tai, can you hear me?
I can. What's up?
Tai.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, something is up with the app. I'm not sure what up. So I don't know. Like it's dead, man. Like it's moving at like bullet time. Um, let me just. I don't think anyone has joined yet, so let me just reset it quickly because I don't know why it's doing this, but it's really, really, really.
Yeah, restart the whole thing. Yeah.
I like even like just the way it refreshes. It's static.
Or
Huh?
maybe restart your PC.
Oh, jeez. Okay, let me just. Yeah, let me just do that. All right, cool. So, ladies and gents, thanks for joining. Vincent, welcome. Taye should be here. I'm just gonna check in with him quickly. So he's gonna be joining me. Unfortunately, I don't think Loki's gonna make it. He's doing grown-up things. He's out there meeting people, having a good time. Vincent, please let me know how my sound is. Oh snap! I think we have a full house. We have quite a few people on the. Guys, please leave a comment so I can know who's here. But welcome. I see we have quite a few people already here. So as you guys know, we're going to be talking about quite a few things. It's not going to be like the Friday show where we have like a jam-packed 5-hour, 6-hour stream. No, guys, I know that you guys are at work. And if you're not at work, it's after work for you. So we'll try and be kind. Sound is okay. Thanks, Vince. Much appreciated. All right. So, guys, tell me, what do you guys think? Like, you guys know what's been happening. You know what's been happening. So there's about 4 things that I wanted to talk about today. First one being Starfield, the update. Are you guys excited? Are you not entertained by Starfield coming to PS5? Is that not why you're here? Fuzzy Tomato, welcome. Let me just check in on Tai. We should be back on. Hey Tai, we're good. All right. Yeah, are you guys not excited for the Star Wars updates? Star Wars. Starfield updates. The second item on the agenda. So Tai, I'm just having a back and forth here with Tai. Oh shit, my camera's not on. So the second item on the agenda is going to be, yes, same link, brother. Yeah, so second item on the agenda is going to be DLSS. Interesting, Vincent mentioned Pissa at the beginning of this broadcast. So for all those that are not in the know, Pissa is PSSR. It is PlayStation's upscaling. It's not upscaling. Is it upscaling? Yeah, it's their upscaling model, very similar to DLSS. Yeah, DLSS 5 has been all the jam. It's all the rage over the last day or so. So we're going to be talking about that. Aside from DLSS, then we're also going to talk about the man, the legend himself, Strauss, the ultra uber executive, the man who owns or who's in charge of the biggest franchise. Some people say of all time, I will say today, which is GTA. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, we live in a timeline where we are gonna get World War III, not the game, the reality, before we get GTA 6. Imagine that. Who would have thought that we're going to get World War III, right? If you're an American, I would say, I was about to say if you're American or you're part of NATO, but I don't think America still has any allies left. No offense. You are probably going to get drafted before you get GTA 6. You're going to be watching videos from the battlefield somewhere in the Middle East about like how great GTA 6 is gonna look with DLSS 5 while you're in the middle of a battlefield. Imagine that. You got World War III before GTA 6. Welcome in, Tai. What's been happening, bro?
Not much. I see you're talking about wars. What a great to start off a podcast.
No. I was just saying that, like, I mentioned the fact that we're gonna talk about Strauss Zelnick and his recent interview. Guy is actually quite interesting, eh? Like, I didn't know them as much as I know about him now because I went and I did some research after watching that video. So I brought up Strauss Zelnick, and me bringing up Strauss Zelnick, I just mentioned the fact that, like, chances are people are gonna be drafted to go to war before they actually get a copy of GTA 6. Don't you think that's ironic?
The Americans maybe. I don't know about the Europeans. We're going to war. They're the ones who love their guns. You know what I mean? Now you can get all those gun-loving guys from the South You can get them to to go over and actually shoot some things over in a different country. That's pretty much what they want, right?
Yeah,
Pew,
no,
pew, pew,
like
pew, pew.
all the Call of Duty heads, all the guys that think that war is like Call of Duty. Yeah, it's time to get your live demo. Okay, cool. But like, yeah, so Taya, welcome. So I was just taking everybody through sort of like what we're gonna be talking
You
about.
just want about the war thing. Sometimes I feel like people need to understand the consequences of their actions and words, and for them to fully like do a course correction. So maybe a war is a good thing then for some of these people. Maybe they'll get to realize. I don't mean in a way that like, oh, we're going to go to war and that's great for everyone, but the people who are pushing us towards this, they'll get to realize that, like, their words have consequences, and that's really important because I feel like there's a lot of people talking a lot of smack, and they're encouraging really bad behavior. And all this, and I keep looking at this saying, but this is like, what does this lead? This leads to a terrible situation, but they don't see it. And until something drastic happens, something bad happens, then that's when I think we'll actually get to see a change.
No, I mean, like, we've had like a lot of back and forths about this in terms of like, especially like, the whole thing of like, and then everybody will say that, like, is it worth it at the end of the day? What was the backlash against whatever you were backlashing against worth the sort of situation that we're in today? And sometimes my mom used to say that if you can't hear, then sometimes you need to feel. And I think we're in that situation where a lot of people are gonna have to feel it because they were not open to hear. Funny enough, this scene here is one of the infamous DLSS 5 scenes from Starfield. I'm sure you've seen this scene, Ty, when they recreated it with the DLSS filter.
Somebody has actually showed that, like, because that the way the filter works is that, like, it does do some of these things. However, the filter just oversaturates to some extent, and if you actually tone it down a little bit, it actually looks, I don't want to say realistic, but when you actually tone it down, it looks better. It doesn't look as AI. So I think it's a feature that can be modded and, like, improved upon. I think that's the key thing right here. Improve on it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. So speaking of DLSS, so I thought let's open with that, Ty, before we even get into the Starfield stuff, because the Starfield stuff is more like fun talk, but this was very controversial. As you guys know, actually, no, before we get to that, sorry. Formal introductions ahead first. So, Ty, what have you been playing? What have you been up to? I know that there's one thing that you finished this week and you put it up. So please tell us a little bit more about that, and then we can get started.
Yeah, I did
video. Before you start, welcome in Raichi with the hot comment already. Thank you, Raichi, for joining us. Please, Ty, go ahead.
Why do you think you want to read it out, or you were going to read it out?
Sorry?
Comment.
Why do you think when a game like Metro or Atomic Heart appears, everyone loves it? People are tired to play American dude doing pew pew to the point that receives bombs from them for decades. So I hear you. Like, that's a good question, because I'm trying to think of Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart was actually a very interesting game. It was a rush, if I remember correctly. The whole thing took place in the USSR, an alternative version of the USSR. That's a good question, Raichi. I think, you know what it is. Like, I think regardless of the people of the country, there's just a thing that people have a fascination with armies and militaries. I mean, there's a reason, like, everyone grew up playing with toy soldiers, those little green men. Like, I don't even think it's a video game specific thing, right? Okay.
So, I think what's important here is just like we like experiencing new things, and a game like Atomic Heart is a little bit different. I mean, it's not a little bit different. It's a lot different from what we would normally expect. In fact, it's probably more like leaning towards more Bioshock as opposed to Call of Duty.
Yeah.
Even Battlefield. One of the reasons why I got into Battlefield was because I got tired of, the run on gun situation. I wanted teamwork. I wanted buildings collapsing. So I think it's going to come in cycles. There's going to be a time when maybe we like playing games like Metro and Atomic Heart a lot, and that becomes the main basis we play these kind of shooting games from. And then in the end, Call of Duty again, that's fast and run on gun is going to come again, and we're going to love it again, right? So I just think these come in cycles. For example, even like racing games, right? Back in the days, you had Midnight Club, you had Need for Speed, you had all these kind of like fast track racing games, and then eventually they kind of like died down a little bit. There's a time where everybody wanted open world games. Skyrim came out, which everyone was like, everything needs to be open world, and we loved it. Assassin's Creed, but now we're tired of it. We want to go back to, short stories. Just a clear pathway to this is how you do it. I wonder even if like fighting games. Go ahead.
So the reason I'm saying I'm asking you, do you think that's a thing? Is because what is everyone will sort of point back to the original open world game being GTA. Yet today, GTA is still as beloved. Everyone is still looking forward to GTA more than any other game. Perhaps the only other game that's more anticipated than GTA, that's just because of like everybody just see what it's going to turn out like, is Star Citizen.
True, but like I think GTA is unique in the sense that there is no other game like GTA, I feel. GTA gives you a very, very unique experience. It doesn't care about what it doesn't care about what you want. It just gives you a huge sandbox and says go ahead and play. And the stories are quite fun. They're interesting. When I was younger, I was crazy about GTA, but my sister would pick up the game and she would go and shoot people. She just loved driving around, attacking people, doing all these crazy things. Now, is it more fun to have a sword and a shield and go around like attacking people in Skyrim with your fire blaster? Maybe, but it's more interesting to be something that's more something that's quite similar to our real life. Okay, I can drive a car. Okay, I can pick up a weapon and go do these things. It's far more interesting. Like I'm looking at Starfield right now. There's nothing interesting about me going around shooting people in Starfield. Like it doesn't feel good.
The gameplay feels good though. You wouldn't agree?
No, the gameplay feels good, but GTA is the closest thing. I don't want to say closest you have to like real life, but like it's a game that it's realistic, it's fun, it's dumb fun, dumb action, and it has all the components that will make you enjoy yourself. You have a good time. I'll give you an example of a game that I think that's gonna do this well in the fantasy setting, in the fantasy setting, and that's the game that's coming out in a couple of days from the Korean devs. The one that I'm interested in.
Desert.
Yeah, Crimson Desert. I'm looking at that game and I'm seeing so many options and so many things to do, so many ways to get to a particular place. In GTA, you can get to this place by a car, you can go by a plane, you can go by a slower car, a truck, you go by a bicycle, maybe even go by a horse, right? And in Crimson Desert, there's like a mech, there's a horse, probably some animals you can ride as well. You can do all this. There's so many different ways to do things. So it's a huge. So Crimson Desert is probably like the sandbox version of GTA, at least from what I'm thinking. Like just off the top of my head. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Speaking of Crimson Desert, are you interested in getting Crimson Desert?
No, I think I'll look at the reviews, but like honestly, open world games are just not for me anymore. I'm just not too much time, too much effort. Crimson Desert is probably going to be like a better version of Assassin's Creed in the sense of like, I don't know about story, but in the sense of like just the Assassin's Creed formula, right? I know people who've said, for example, Ghost of Tsushima or Ghost of Yote is basically Assassin's Creed formula with Sony style, and except Sony did it in their style and they made it really good. Crimson Desert seems like something similar. Like it's kind of like a Ubisoft-like game, but obviously with a different twist. And that twist is probably good enough to make everyone be like, yeah, let's go try this out. Because Ubisoft games are fun. They're great in that sense. However, I'm not crazy about these kind of things. I don't care about different ways to fly, to reach a building, whatever. I'm very, very story-driven. So if your game isn't like if the game doesn't have an amazing story, I just don't really care that much.
Yeah.
I believe you said you weren't interested as well.
No, I'm good. I'll wait. Like, there's nothing there to me from a character and story perspective. For me, that's how you pull me in, is character and story, and hot, boobas. So Vincent says, I pulled my Xbox out of storage. The VCR design is what the Series X should have looked like. But is that a favorable thing? Is that what you would have wanted it to look like, Vincent? I have thoughts about that design. Minus the touch interface. Time to hack the Xbox One. So I still have mine in the living room, dude. It's still running. It's still, like, for instance, for the living room, it's still the main entertainment system. It's where we run Netflix from. It's where we run Amazon from. That thing is a beast, and it just doesn't die. It just keeps going. All right. Cool. So then, Ty, let's get into today's topics, man. Yeah. Oh yes, one last thing, Tai. I just wanted you to talk a little bit about, like, or do you want us to save that for the end of the show? What you've been working on?
We could talk a little bit about it, I suppose. Yeah. I did a video on Matthew Booty, head of Xbox.
Call him Matthew. Are you guys on a first name basis?
This I told you, the check came in, man. The check came in. Do you know how the glaze in that video? Basically, long story short, people have been saying Matthew sucks at games content. Specifically, he fails upwards. I don't think that seems to be true. I think from the video I did, or from the research I looked into, from his time at Xbox, when he was at Xbox Redmond, I believe it was called, and then when Phil purchased Minecraft, Matthew basically managed them. He was in charge of managing them, and he did a fantastic job. Some of CEO Bobby Kotick said the exact same. It said the same thing as well. So up until 2018, there is no dispute that it made perfect sense that he would have gotten the job to manage Xbox Game Studios, because he literally managed Minecraft into the success that it is. Like, this is just common sense. It makes perfect sense, right? And then where you can start to critique him, I guess you could say, is that these games that were coming out under his name all didn't have like the typical 90 plus Metacritic. They're all kind of in the 80s, early 80s, late 70s. They were good. The rating was good, which means that he has a Metacritic of 82. Combine the fact that these games are quite diverse. You got simulation games, like whatever it is. You have strategy games. You have games like Pentiment. I don't know what kind of game that is. Like game like Pentiment. You have Grounded. You have all these kind of games that do not fit. Because, for example, if somebody said to you, would you rather 3 AAA blockbuster games that are in the 90s or 10 that are like in the 80s? You might actually say, no, I want the 10 because that's a lot of gaming content, and AR10s are good games, But the problem with, like I said, with Xbox is that, like, with the other version is 3 AAA blockbuster games that are what you would want to play. That could be a Ghost of Yote, could be a Spider-Man, could be a Last of Us, or God of War. Whereas on the Xbox side, but it's not 10 AAA games in that same category that are AR10s. It's Pentiment, it's Sea of Thieves, games that you wouldn't even be interested in at all. So I think that's where the disconnect happens a lot with Xbox fans and Matthew Booty. Because I did mention this in the video, because the video's kind of getting too long. I didn't want to get into what Herman Holtz, but I kind of round up with this. Herman Holtz's Metacritic since becoming head of PlayStation Studios is around, it's in the 90s. And those are games that you actually want to play, that you guys, hardcore gamers, will find more interesting. Matthew's there's a lot more content, and his average is in the 80s, 81, 82, 83. And there's a lot of games that you wouldn't want to play. So for a game that does really well high is Pentiment. Another game that does really well is Indiana Jones. I mean, Indiana Jones is probably a good game, but it didn't do the number. It's not going to do Ghost of Yote numbers in terms of sales or the equivalent of that, even from a player perspective from Game Pass. But there's some really big gems there, and I'll just close off with these gems, such as Sea of Thieves, 40 million players, and Forza Horizon, close to 50 million players right now. Like these are huge hits under him, that are not disputed. You know, you could ask PlayStation, Sony, you could ask Nintendo, not so much because they already have all these things, but you could ask Sony, would you like an IP like Minecraft? They will say hell yeah. You could ask Sony, would you like a game like Forza Horizon? They'll say hell yeah. Even Sea of Thieves, hell yeah. They just brought up Marathon. Marathon isn't going to do what Sea of Thieves did. It's not going to reach that. Destiny has lost like 98% of its players. Sea of Thieves is probably making more money than Destiny right now, right? So from a live service perspective, Matthew's king. He's dope. He's great.
So that you reckon that's why he stayed employed, and then Phil and Sarah got the boot, even though they were like his seniors?
I think there's politics here as well, to be honest. I'll give you an example. When Amy Hood says the first party games didn't do the numbers they were supposed to an extent, she can say, but that's primarily Call of Duty, right? And he kind of falls onto that under that category. So there is some kind of looking into there. But then the next question she might say is, what about the Avowed game though?
Yeah.
What about the Outer Worlds 2 game? Why aren't these games doing that well? And then she might be looking at it saying like, wait, how much did these games cost to make? Wait, they didn't reach their targets. So yeah, you're doing well in these other areas, but these games didn't reach their targets. And here's what I'll say. If Fable doesn't do what it's supposed to do, if Forza doesn't do what it's supposed to do, and if what's the other game? Fable, Forza, Gears. If those three games don't do what they're supposed to do, then I think he's definitely in trouble. Because now Fable took like nearly 10 years to make. The return on that game needs to be high. And I might even give it to you and say that if Fable comes out as an exclusive for Xbox,
which it's not,
and this is even if Steam is not even involved, I don't know if they're gonna look at that like return as even justified.
Yeah.
At this point, whatever margins they expected for Fable, I'm just obviously guessing now. It's much lower now. It's way lower. So and whatever, like they probably expected Fable to sell a lot of consoles as well. Back then when they first started developing it, everything is much lower now because the game just took too long to make.
Interesting. Well, that's a very interesting take, Ty. I think a lot of people just have this impression that, Matt Booty just failed upwards and he continues to fail upwards. But the devil is always in the detail, especially for the layman who's not paying attention to the overall bigger picture and following the beat by beat, play by play of the business. Yeah. So Raichi says the Far Cry formula. Unfortunately, that's what's happened. Instead of us, I mean, like you got in the PS2 era, Raichi, and in the 360 era where a lot of people were trying to copy the GTA formula, and then just a lot of games failed. They just didn't make it. Vincent says the VCR design is way more practical than a monolith fridge. I'll get back to you on that. I prefer the monolith fridge. I really love that design. There's just too much baggage attached to that VCR design. Sorry, man. Like for me, there's just but I still have one. It's still very treasured, and it's still part of my entertainment system in my living room. Cool. So that said, let's get straight into it then, Ty.
Let's get straight into it. I think I want to say something about Booty. There's a chance.
Oh yes. Just one more thing, just before you get into that, guys. So you heard what Ty feels or thinks about Matt Booty. What is your take on Matt Booty and his record during his tenure at Xbox? Sorry about that, Ty. Please go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to about Booty, like, because people look at him and say, "Well, he's still there," and I think he's there just because of politics as well. Apart from his, his success with the games, you can't. If you were to get rid of Phil, Sarah, and Matthew, that would have been a bit strange. There's too much of a loss there, and the question is like, who do you put in place to manage the studios? Matthew has a great rapport with the studios. Apparently, he's really liked a lot. It's probably better to have Booty there and Asher there, she meets these studios under him, so he guides her. And then once she has the knowledge, she knows who to talk to. She can then bring in her own people and then push Putty aside. Like it's possible. Like that makes actually a lot of sense to me as well. In this current moment, so don't be surprised if Matthew decides to step down like a year or 2 years later, or whatever it is.
Okay, I'll hear you.
I think you're on mute, man. Oh, I think the internet has failed. Oh crap.
No.
Oh, you're back.
Ty, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. What's up?
Okay, cool. I was worried again because I had a little bit of a technical issue when we started. Okay, cool. So that said, let's get straight into it. So if you guys haven't seen or we're not in the know, so DF got exclusive. I don't know if this was an exclusive first view of DLSS 5. So basically, it was the main cast, or it was Richard and I forget the other guy, Oliver. It was Richard and Oliver who got like first dibs at DLSS 5 to just sort of like, as a preview to see what this technology is capable of. What they didn't anticipate, and this is probably their second biggest blow up since the Nintendo thing, where they were being accused of being or acting favorably. I think it was the Nintendo thing, right, Ty? Where they were being accused of being biased against or airing a game that didn't look good, but they didn't critique it because I'm sure it was Nintendo had sponsored the video. And I think it was something like a Pokemon. I can't remember the exact, but I know that this is the second event that they've gotten in trouble for. And it's probably bigger than the first time that this happened, the first time around. The video, which is something rare for DF Foundry, is ratioed in terms of downvotes on YouTube, as well as the usual negative sort of like feedback, especially when it concerns a subject like AI. So we're just going to dive into the story. But in the interim, guys, please just share, what are your thoughts on DLSS 5? So we can just get this conversation going. Let us know in the chat, and we'll read those out, and we'll include them in as part of this conversation. So this was the follow-up video, Ty. This is not the original video that they aired. This was the follow-up video after the backlash that they didn't anticipate. And after this, I think this came just before the CEO of Nvidia also responded to the backlash. Okay, so let's get into it. And then Ty, I'm not going to do the whole thing because it's like 55 minutes. We're just going to watch like the first part of the video. I watched the whole thing, and I think the first part of the video is probably the most valuable for discussion.
Fire away.
Cool.
Well, Oliver Mackenzie, hello.
Yes, Rich. Good as always to see you, and happy to talk about DLSS 5.
Yep, absolutely. And of course, Alex Battaglia.
Hey, everyone. After the blowout yesterday, only appropriate I'm here.
Absolutely. Okay. I'm going to kick off, first of all, by holding my hand up and saying that, we understand a lot of the feedback to the video. And I don't think we did a good enough job on the day. We had a lot to say, not a lot of time to say it. And we went straight from seeing the demos into making the video. Beyond that, hindsight is a wonderful thing, right? But we should have taken more time with the material. And I think it would have been prudent to wait to see the reaction from the audience and the.
So I think the reason they're making such a big deal of this particular response, Ty, is because of that. This is like the second time that like such a big blowout or a big sort of like backlash has happened against them. So, and again, another interesting detail in terms of their story as DF is the fact that they're independent now. They no longer belong to that bigger group that owned Eurogamer, etc. So this is Richard's business. So he has to protect his investment. So he has to come out and do like the damage control.
Developers to the keynote, and audience and developers, both super important to what we do. Opinion is clearly divided on this one, but looking over social media, it's been interesting to see varying opinions from both sides of the argument, audience and developers alike. Even so, lessons learned. But I guess, going back to the video we produced, why get excited about DLSS 5? Well, we spent 3 hours with 4 games and the Zora tech demo. We spoke in detail with the people that created DLSS 5. And whenever you're seeing something new and cutting edge, there's an excitement you get coming out fresh from those sort of types of encounters. And yeah, we can talk strengths and weaknesses about the technology in a bit, but ultimately, this is our first real look at games that are being driven by neural rendering, right? And there's a hell of a lot going on here that's going to be defined.
Can I just say that nothing can save Starfield's NPCs, their generic NPCs, from being the ugliest and the most scary, frightful looking NPCs in all of gaming.
The elements of next
For a AAA game.
generation graphics. But I think we needed extra time to talk with our teammates and come to a consensus about what we're dealing with here, good and bad, before we put something on the record, and we didn't do that. Equally on the record, though, as emotive a subject as AI is, you're really not going to make your point effectively by actively threatening or sending death threats to the DF team. This is crossing the line and totally unacceptable.
Tay, I know you have thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think it's almost like par for course now, right? If people disagree with you, they need to jump towards extremes. And when you deal with, honestly, gamers, this is kind of what you're going to expect. It is what it is. There's some audiences that are quite mature, and there's audiences that are very immature and a lot more entitled. So, unfortunately for them, that's just what it is.
And my problem is that, like, when you do something that's stupid, is that you invalidate, or you make us all look like a bunch of freaking morons, like a bunch of freaking to your point, men babies. Like what's the point? Like, you're not gonna get the people to change their mind by doing stupid shit like that. But it's the whole thing of just the internet, between the bots and between people that just troll for the sake of trolling. And it's a very toxic culture, in my opinion. It's just not necessary. Like, it's not funny. Like, death threats are not funny. Like, maybe 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when the internet was new, this was something that could shock. It's not shocking anymore. It's just annoying. That's just my take on it.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's just one of those cases where people feel protected behind the screen, and they just think it's funny to say these things. Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, these platforms are not regulated by government, because if they were regulated by government, I think personally, if you're going to be on a public platform like Twitter, there should be some sort of and I know everybody hates it, and I know a lot of gamers push back against, but fuck you. I'm sorry. Like, why are you wanting to hide beyond anonymities? You're going to be saying things like, when people are sending death threats to people. I really think there should be an ID attached to all your accounts and all your profiles, especially if you're going to be posting things to other people and saying shit to other people.
Yeah, I agree.
Only reason people behave like this is because they can't be seen. And I have problems with that because it makes them act irresponsibly.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, it's a rant for another day.
So yeah, we put the video out, and as I mentioned, the idea was to follow up with a longer discussion, but the way things have sort of played out, we wanted to include supporter questions. So let's kick off with this one from Magnum Stash. Interesting video on DLSS 5. On first look, it appears too good to be true, and I suspect this is why the reaction has been mixed. Coincidentally, the sales of pitchforks have increased by 3,000% on Amazon. Ironically, it seems that Nvidia has an image problem. The image output by DLSS 5 is so drastically different that people suspect foul play, as if Nvidia has injected Snapchat filters into games against the will of developers. Do you think Nvidia will have to show their working to assuage these concerns, to highlight how they're apparently using existing assets and not quote-unquote AI face filters that fumble on the artistic vision? Intrigued to hear more about it before I head to B&Q, presumably for that pitchfork. Yeah, I'm just going to quickly take this one. Artistic integrity is something we touched on in the video, and we'll talk about that rather a bit more shortly. But for the record, during the demo we had, it was clear that all of the demos had been signed off by the studios of, the people who made the game. So at that point, it assuaged some of the issues we had about the facial stuff in particular, along with the fact that it was clearly flagged as still being work in progress. How it was phrased was it's sort of like we're looking at a snapshot of current development. Things are going to change. We're also told about the controls developers have to work with in getting the look right. But yeah, ultimately, Capcom, EA, Bethesda, and others signed off on everything you saw because they own the IPs, right? So how do you weigh that against trampling on artistic vision? You know, DLSS 5 integrations can't exist without the studio's support. And obviously, you know, some studios might not want to be involved, but clearly there are quite a few that are involved. This question from Abandoned Walnut regarding DLSS.
So before we get into that question, so Ty, do you think that's enough?
Yeah, 100%. Like, they can do what, like, EA right now could modify any of their IPs that they wanted to. You know, when we look at Dragon Age Veilguard, it's you know, people say, hey, it looks more cartoony. Well, yeah, it does, but EA owns the IP. It is their their IP. They can do with whatever with what they can do whatever as they wish with it.
Okay. No, I understand the IP part, right? So my only question would be, do you think it would be considered ethical from a business? Legally, they can do this, right? They can do this, but no, I just want to, from a business/artistic perspective, to change the art after the fact. After you've created your art, you've put your work out there for the corporates to then decide, well, you know what, we're going to retroactively remaster your art and change it. The reason I'm bringing this up, because this is going to be a huge part, if I listen to the murmurs of the next Xbox and the next PS5, that you're going to get, like, for instance, technology that's going to enable you to go remaster 360 games, in terms of, like, you can add a filter that's going to make, or whatever this thing is, you put that on and then it makes this game look like it was released in 2026.
Yeah, that's fine. Of course.
Yeah. All right. Guys, let us know what you guys think. Do you think that is ethical? Do you think that is something that companies should be allowed to do, to go change the work retroactively after it's been released? I'm still thinking on it. I don't have an opinion yet, because I don't discourage the use of AI. I think those are brilliant tools for indie developers. And when I mean indie developers, I mean anyone that makes content. It can help you drastically to improve the quality of your work, but at the same time, it can also be used for sport.
I think there's a discussion here, in the sense that I would like people to be able to be given the option. You know, so if you want to change something, give them the option. But I don't even mean this from an artistic point of view. I mean this even from a gameplay point of view. So you know, if the game is like maybe Elden Ring, or you know, like Street Fighter, whatever it is, and you want to amend certain player stats, then I think, you know, maybe there should be a question there of like, okay, well, can I participate? Now, I would say if you don't want to participate and the game has online features that says, no, you know, this is a live service situation where we're going to keep updating the game, then no, that way you don't have to participate. So instead of saying like, for example, I think my friend was saying how everyone was saying there's something happening in Elden Ring. And people were saying, hey, listen, if you don't want these, if you don't want the changes, don't update it. Yeah, like give them the option to say, hey, this is gonna make some changes. If you don't want to accept these changes, then just keep playing the game the way it is. End of story. I think that's fine. Like I would like that option. So yeah, but for online games and multiplayer games, no. But even with that said, I like that option, but it's still perfectly fine for Ubisoft or whatever to say, we want to change this feature about Bayek's facial animations a little bit, make it look a little bit different. They want to change his clothing. That's perfectly fine. It's their IP. They can do as they wish, you know.
Okay. As I said, like for me, the jury is still out, because I'm somewhere in the middle. I think, to your point, if it makes and this is gonna sound superficial as fuck, but if it makes characters like they did with that Grace chick from Resident Evil, I didn't see the outrage. I just thought, like, I was like, well, they gave her a glow up. Like, I'm not complaining. But then people will say, well, yeah, you know what, like, you're a Guna gamer, so whatever. So yeah, the jury's still out as far as I'm
concerned. I actually have a question. I know it's related to this, but I thought about this well before even I thought about DLSS or whatever it is called, an AI. I was thinking to myself once, imagine if a publisher, I was talking about Xbox in particular for some reason, they were like, you know what, we just made Gears of War, and Gears of War is great, but it's not really, these games don't really trend in Japan, and they don't trend in Japan because of whatever reason. Imagine if Xbox hired a team to basically Japanese Gears of War, like in terms of what
Make
they
it
would
a
prefer. So you
make it
still
like
have
a gotcha looking game.
well, maybe not so much gotcha, but like, so maybe you could look it
In
could be
art
like,
style.
like
Like
the
one of
art
those
style. So it's more
anime
anime looking game. It's not as, maybe it's still gory, but like it's not as bad, but it's more gacha looking and it has more anime things, you know what I mean? And obviously you get the Japanese voice actors and that you kind of make it sound more like them. So now you have a completely different Gears of War game. I mean, it has the same bag as whatever it is. It just looks more animified. And I thought, that's not bad, is it? Because now you give people the options to pick what they want. Now you might say, but your artistic vision has been messed up. Well, no, because now it's a different artistic vision. There's two artistic visions. There's one for a region, there's one for you, and you can pick which one you want to play. And then, but obviously now that AI is it, then I'm like, oh, well, even maybe AI could just do it like that.
Yeah.
I mean, not like that, but like it makes it much easier. What are your thoughts on that? And to everyone in the chat, what are your thoughts of making different versions of it? Because we already do different versions to some extent for games. Like, we take things out that might be bad in a different region. But what are you guys' thoughts on making basically a animified version to suit a different region's preference?
So Fuzzy says they can do what they want, but they gotta expect to get shit on if the faces look like AI. And to me, yeah, I agree with Fuzzy. I get and he's right in terms of like the backlash, because, and especially in the gaming community, there's so much backlash against AI. The only thing that I think people have hated more than AI was what was that thing that came after Bitcoin? The
Crypto?
No. The thing where you could sell your art, the thing that Ubisoft literally tanked their company for.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, as the name escapes me, but it's those things where you could buy like actual things and then
NFTs.
NFTs.
Fuzzy,
So the only thing that I've seen that gamers have a bigger backlash against than NFTs has been AI. And then Reichi says Gears of War with heavy armor samurai. Like, look, AI makes all that stuff possible because it's not going to change the core mechanics. It's just going to add a filter based on what. And again, this is where we're going. We're going to a point where the developers are going to build the engine. And this is me also answering part of your question, Tai. The developers are going to build the game. They're going to build the core engine and the core sort of like, if it's built on Unreal Engine 5, for instance. So they're going to build you the core mechanics, the animations, and all that stuff. And then it's going to be up to the player to change the aesthetic to suit themselves. So if you don't like the original Gears aesthetic, then what they're going to sell you, and this is me now looking into the future and my crystal ball, then they're going to sell you packs. Okay, would you like the Gears of War anime pack? Would you like the Gears of War retro pixelated look? Would you like the Gears of War PS1 look? So they'll give you all these different, and then this is like where people were assuming what this was, is like a filter, which is, it's to some degree it is, if I understand the technology, but a lot of it has to do with shadows as well. So I'm all for that. Like, I have nothing against that. Thank you, Fuzzy. Yes, NFTs. So I'm all for that. As long as, I mean, like, as the game developer, you still get to make the core game. And if people want to experience that core game, they get a chance to do it. But if they want to alter it to fit what they would like to see as a visual style, that's brilliant. And what this solves, Tai, is it solves problem like Dragon Age Veilguard, where if I still want the old aesthetic of Dragon Age, I can just say, give me the original, give me the Dragon Age Inquisition art style for this game, and then voila.
Yeah, I agreed.
All right, so let's hear what Richard.
SS5, do you have any information regarding how much game developers can maintain artistic integrity whilst using the tech? There's been quite a negative response to the video, with concerns raised around it being quote unquote AI slop, and a worry this might make graphics very quote unquote samey and stifle artistic intent. I remain on the fence re this technology, but I wonder what your thoughts are on these sorts of comments. And we've got this question here from Fully Fallible. When DLSS 5 resolves detail not even found in the character model view of Resident Evil 9, at what point do we consider this technology damaging to the intent? If these details were quote unquote desired, wouldn't they at least be present there? So, Alex, in the wake of our video, before it went live, you actually put together some notes and impressions and whatnot. And this concept of artistic integrity, I'm not so much sure it's about the whether the studios sign off as such, although that's clearly important because that's key to it, right? But at the same time, it's like the change is so dramatic in some cases. The original assets would never have been intended for that kind of presentation.
Yeah, and that was my largest technical issue with the demo. I'm just, before even talking about artist integrity and vision, which I think is the key impetus behind this specific part of this video, like the technical issue that I have with DLSS 5 is that essentially, since it is working on a 2D plane, yes, it is using color and motion vectors, that it has limited information about like the original model detail there. It's not being fed individual higher resolution versions of the like model that are offline rendered. It doesn't have the facial scans of the exact actor necessarily built into it and trying to approach that, asymptotic curve, trying to get there with that. Rather, it appears, based upon the kind of way it's fudging with some of the faces at times, it appears to be using a different data set, maybe a much larger data set, hence why it has the requirement of 2x 5090s to run in real time due to VRAM constraints. And this data set regarding things like human skin.
I just want to stop it there, Ty. You heard what he said.
Could you clarify what he said? Like, it says because it's
running
in a 2D.
It's running off two 5090s.
Yeah, I heard about that part. Yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, Vincent is a guy. He's the PC guy. He would know. Isn't the 5090 a 24 gig card?
Well, I think what's interesting is that most people who are complaining probably don't. Like, here's my issue with this whole situation. One, it's optional, right? So if it's optional,
yeah, like DLSS has always been optional. If
it's optional, then what's the complaint? So that's number one. Number two, if it's a 1590, most people, the people who are probably gonna be able to even use this, it's very, very limited. So I just don't understand the blowback. Like, I understand being like, oh, it doesn't look great, but like the intensity of this thing, of something that isn't gonna really affect you, is crazy to me.
Vincent said it's a 32 gig card. So are they running two 32 gig cards, Vincent, just to get this to work? That's that's 64. That's 64 gig of RAM that this thing needs to function. Jesus. Yeah, that's a lot of VRAM. And of course, the architecture, that's the biggest die that Nvidia has. It's the biggest die probably in the business. I don't think anyone produces a bigger die than that. I don't know about no. Apple's dies are pretty small. So I hear what you're saying, right?
I sent you two pictures of Starfield on your WhatsApp, of what this thing has done as well for some of the stuff for characters. Listen, some of them don't look great. Some of them look amazing. The environments look great in some of them. It is what it is. But at the end of the day, it's a working technology. It's gonna get better.
Okay, so
the pushback is, to me, it's just so drastic.
Okay, he says they will introduce more frame generation, meaning that lower spec graphics cards will be able to run it. And then Raichi says it's not optional. Raichi, can you please elaborate in terms of by that? What do you mean it's not optional? Is it because the reason why I said to Taya it's optional is because of the fact that DLSS has always been optional. You can always run rasterized, just core game, core graphics options. You don't have to put on upscaling for DLSS, etc. And of course, another key factor is that I believe that the image that they showed there was also upscaling from like 540p or something like that. I don't know. Like I think that's another reason maybe why it needs all that processing power. But Ty, can you just because I had a response to your initial question, I just lost my train of thought. Can you please just run that past me again?
I think it was why do people care so? Not that, why do they
Oh
care
yes,
so much?
yes,
Go ahead,
yes, exactly. So the reason people care so much, because I can almost guarantee you that if the next generation of consoles, PC hybrids are going to be based around this technology, I guarantee you that this is going to be an incremental part of the Xbox hybrid or the Helix. It's going to be part of the PS6. I don't think that you're going to, even if it's not there in the beginning, but all these devices are now built around being optimized for AI. So it's definitely going to be part of that those ecosystems.
Okay, so somebody actually made a point that, for example, Assassin's Creed Shadows, it's basically the luminal lighting, I believe it's called. It's basically just, it needs like ray tracing or whatever you want to call it, like the lighting system. Once you turn it off, the game looks like far worse. I think what he was trying to say is like, because you've built the game on this system, what happens is when you take out the system, the game actually looks worse. Now, if you built the game without the system, and obviously it's not there, it will actually be better. So that the tech you're using is actually important. So that was the example somebody gave to me, that like, if this takes off, every game is going to have this kind of AI kind of look in the end, which is bad for gaming. So it's not about turning it on and off, Ty. It's more about, well, if this becomes a standard, then there is no turning it on and off. It's just there by default. Now, my response to that was also like, yeah, okay, I get. I think that's actually a better argument. However, my pushback there is still like, yeah, but if no one's buying and everyone's crapping on it, when like if Monster Hunter comes down and people don't like the way it looks, then no one's just gonna buy it anyway. Like, yeah, like let the market dictate.
So Raichi is actually answering my question, but I think he's also talking to what you just said. He says, remember when ray tracing was optional? And that's a good point, Raichi, because games like Indiana Jones, Doom, Doom Dark Ages, in those games, I know for a fact that ray tracing was not optional. It was, the games were built using ray tracing technology. Hence, they were so heavy on system specs and VRAM. He goes on to say, now developers don't know how to do lighting without ray tracing. And that is a serious... look, it saves a lot of time. It makes game development more accessible to more developers if the tools come built in with this type of stuff. But at the same time, for you, the end user, it means that you need more advanced and more expensive hardware to be able to run these games. That is the unfortunate caveat from our side. To me, the only thing, Taiwe, I would push back against this is if I end up with the same problem I have now with my 8 gig card, where I now need a 24 gig card to be able to run these games by default. Then I'm definitely now outpriced, or like just, out of the market, because I can't run this because this game is not built to run on normal rasterization.
Don't worry, it wouldn't be like, I know people have said this, and I think when you spoke about this before, my response was like, no, it wouldn't be. Developers, there's a reason why Cyberpunk came out on the Xbox One and Series X. There's a reason why Jim Ryan said we don't believe in generations. Yeah, all those PlayStation games came on the PS4. Is because there is a huge user base there. And even, listen, Capcom said literally that over 50%, and it's going to keep happening, of our revenue is going to be coming from PC.
Yeah.
But then Steam comes out and says 70% of people don't even have devices or desktops that are more powerful than the Steam machine.
Yeah.
Like they know the data. They're not. No one's gonna release a game that you need a 4070 to play. Like, you're just gonna like wipe yourself out. The example I also gave as well was the mobile phone store. There's a lot of mobile phones out there that can play powerful games. But why are these games very indie looking or like very low spec? It's because they know that like if you were to program these games to be like this powerful or whatever, you just call out like 7% of the markets, and that's like 7% of your revenue. Like, money talks. So
yeah, I hear you. Okay, so Vincent says forced ray tracing sucks. Nvidia pulled a serious a hold move this way because all the rigs which could run the game got excluded, like the 1080 Ti. God bless the legend. Like, we have to do this whenever we talk about the 1080 Ti. It's one of the greatest graphics cards ever made. And the Radeon 600 series. I agree with you, Raichi. Like, even my card, like, I've got a 3060 Ti. And the thing is about the 3060, it can run almost any game with no issues. But the moment we start talking about this BS about ray tracing, then I start to run into problems and I start having to reduce the resolution, run the games at 1080p, put them down from high or maybe like to ultra to like medium. So yeah, it is. And meanwhile, the game, after like a while, a lot of those things are things that you're not even going to notice gameplay wise. They don't really have a bearing on gameplay. All right, so I'm going to cut it short, Tai, but like I just want us to finish this first part of the video, and then we'll
eyes, whatever. I get the feeling it's doing some sort of averaging there over them, while also affecting the shading and the lighting on their faces, particularly. And in this case, I think for a character like Grace, in the initial shot of her in the game's opening in the city streets that they show off, my initial gut reaction and then permanent reaction thereafter is this is not even the same person. And I think that is the key result most people get out of that. And then the second thing I get out of it is that I played the game quite a lot in preparation for a lot of my videos covering it.
So there's another guy that actually he's now like making the rounds on Twitter, and he took the face model or the model that they used for this, and he compared it to how she looks versus how she looked with like normal graphics from the game, including path tracing, and then she compared it to this, and then you can start to see where this model of theirs is getting. Because all the features, like this is all the model's actual features, like what this light has enhanced. But the thing, what they're saying, which is true, is that it's also adding reference from other stuff that, like, because what AI is just this one big sort of like rip-off of other art styles or like, yeah. So it's pulled reference data from other things, but the face, if you look at how she looks, is very close to this, from what I saw, what this guy was posting on Twitter. So just before we go back to the video, Reggie says...
Well, I think I know what you're talking about, but I don't know if there was a rebuttal there. Like, I saw a recent thread, and somebody was actually saying the opposite. They were saying that that if you take off certain things like lightning and all that kind of stuff, the actual characters look closer to the actual like DLSS off. And the example that they gave is that I think they did something and they were able to, like, I don't know if they did it manually themselves or like, what they have some system to do it, but they gave 3 versions: the original version, the DLSS 5 version, and then they gave like a middle version ground. I think what people were saying in that situation was that this is actually akin to when you go to like a TV store and they want to sell you a TV, and what they'll do is they'll crank up all the contrast to make it look really bright and colorful and detailed.
Yes.
And then when you take that TV home, you're like, oh, no, it's too much. Like, then you tone it back down to what it is. Because and I didn't really finish the thread, but it seems like people were saying, yes, they were agreeing with what the guy was saying, that it does seem like it is doing what it's supposed to do. It's just that like they overdid it, and if they tone it back down a little bit, it actually gives a better reflection. So I don't know. I didn't finish the thread. I don't know if everyone agreed or everyone said, nope, it's still bullshit. But I think that's a good point to point out, because I saw the picture you were talking about and it was going around, but some people were saying like, nah, that's not what it is. But
okay,
we'll see.
I hear you. So Reishi says, look at games like Callisto Protocol, Need for Speed 2015, Witcher 3. Reishi, like, I see all the games that you're mentioning, especially Red Dead 2. Zero ray tracing and they look great. But Reishi, I don't even think you need to go back that far in terms of looking at games that look brilliant without ray tracing. There's a lot of recent games. I can't think of any examples right now. I mean, even Cyberpunk, for instance. Cyberpunk, I play it with all the ray tracing switched off. I get a good stable 60 plus experience to about like 80 to sometimes 90. And yeah, at 1440p, and the game looks amazing, looks fantastic. No ray tracing. And then Vincent says, ray tracing should be optional. You can play Cyberpunk on a 1080 Ti with FSR, but of course it looks better with ray tracing and of course path tracing. That's true, but like one thing I noticed about path tracing, because I was playing Cyberpunk and I had a path tracing 4K video running on my other monitor to just compare. After a while, when you play the game, you start to not notice all that, especially with how the NPCs look at Cyberpunk. They don't look very realistic. So after a while, it doesn't make much of a difference, Vincent. So you can rasterize it. Just normal rasterization is fine, in my opinion. We don't need, like, ray tracing has not progressed graphics, in my opinion, that far ahead.
And I know that Grace, in that shot there, she is reluctantly going to the house where her mother was murdered. And she is not wanting to go there. She's nervous, all these things. She's not even caring about anything other than just like getting there. And she quite obviously doesn't look like she's wearing things like makeup and whatnot. And I honestly looked at the side-by-sides here and I thought I saw evidence of, other than the facial features being completely different, I see things like evidence of mascara. I see evidence of like what appears to be like pursed, lipsticked lips, and like they even have like the like one thing you do with lipstick is you like put it up here to make this like kind of devil's horns, like things that her original model did not have at all. Not even regarding the fact that the face was completely different, but it's kind of like when I look at a lot of really AI generated features in other.
Huh?
Like I don't. Was it?
No comment.
That gave her makeup.
I'm not gonna comment. I know nothing about. No, I'm not. When it comes to
no, because like I saw because the original picture looked like she had like dark shadows around her eyes.
Yeah.
So like I wonder if like obviously I don't know that much, right? So I do wonder if what they're responding to is the backlash, and they're actually not really being as objective as they should be anymore now. Like is it a case where like they're trying to appease people by actually like just talking about the backlash now, as opposed to like talking about like what it actually is? Like I actually don't know anymore.
No, but I don't think I like knowing Alex, knowing these guys. These guys they don't like AI. Like they are like, and they go on to mention this, especially the other guy with the glasses. What's his name? The John. They are not pro AI people. So this is why I think it was the owner of the founder of Digital Foundry and the other dude that went to go view this, because the other people, they very much, and again you have to get into the PC law. Like there's a huge divide right now in the PC community. People don't like companies like Nvidia because they've doubled down. Nvidia went from making about 4 billion in terms of profit a year or revenue a year to 62 billion. So like there's absolutely nothing that they owe gamers, and gamers are feeling that as a result. There's huge hate for Nvidia. Everything that they've done, and even when they do their showcases, they don't even talk about games anymore. They'll spend an hour talking about AI and their data centers, and then they'll spend like a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes max talking about the latest graphics cards or whatever it is. So I get where these are PC guys. They care about PC gaming, and they're not happy with the direction that Nvidia is going in. So he's not responding. This has got nothing to do. I can defend them here and say this has got nothing to do with them overcorrecting because there's been backlash. They feel this way. I've like from just past stuff I've seen from them, they genuinely feel this way. But just before you continue, Taye, I just wanna give this to Rachie. So Rachie said, but all DLSS 5 games should be obligatory for Bethesda games. So sorry, but DLSS should be obligatory for all Bethesda games. I completely agree. Like Bethesda has some of the most butt ugly NPCs and just generally just character models ever. the one game that would benefit the most from having DLSS is freaking Starfield. With those ugly ass character models. Yes, Rachel, you're preaching to the choir. Taya, can I continue?
Yeah, go ahead.
Other media, you see this kind of over averaging and over perfecting things based upon, like, presumably the training data was based upon, like, certain stock images of certain types of people. And so I kind of got that out of that, where the unique character model of Grace was completely gone. Ethically, I find that very problematic because the actress probably signed off on her likeness to a certain degree. And I don't find that very good to do to someone's acting performance, just like I find, and just like in terms of taste, George Lucas messing with the prequels pisses me off. Messing with the originals, pisses me off. So, like, there's things like that where I say, like, on a technical level, I think the inconsistency with faces and what it's doing to faces in certain scenes is actually the sign of a technical failing. And then on the other level, I kind of feel like there's great ethical problems with going over it, even if the studio signed off on it. It's not, we've talked about it a lot on DF Direct before, but just because producers and, game owners and publishers sign off on something doesn't mean the entire team was on board, specifically the artist team who maybe created these character models or these environments. So I feel like I do actually feel like this does in some ways trample on vision.
I don't want to hear this
in a very hardcore way that we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
I don't want to hear this. Like, I don't know what the hell we're talking about anymore. Like, what do you mean? Like, oh, if listen, if you're an artist and you want to, sign up for your game or your facial, like, there is no actual actor, right? For example, like, look at Clear Obscura to an extent. Maybe they took some people's facial animations. They take people's facial animations in general, and they all don't look one to one. Sometimes you make changes, and those changes might be good. Sometimes you take people's bodies and you might make some modifications here and there. This has happened in gaming, I'm sure. Like, I don't know why it's such a problem now. And listen, if you're an actor and you don't want them to change certain things, then put in the contract for sure. I just don't get the idea of, like, well, you can't do this. Like, what do you mean I can't?
Okay, so I want Alex to finish, and then we're gonna move on because I really want us to get to the Strauss Zelnick, because he talks Strauss Zelnick being a business guy. You would relate to this because you're a CEO guy. He really sort of addresses these things that are happening in gaming just in his intro. We're not gonna play the whole interview, but, like, just in his intro, he really addresses, like, and he talks about the different growth phases of gaming and where we are now, and why he joined gaming the time that he did. He left Fox. He was the CEO of Fox. He left to go join Crystal Dynamics. And again, like, a lot of people will say, "What the fuck are you doing, dude? Like, are you insane? Like, gaming is for kids." He did this in 1993, so he addresses a lot of these growing pains. I get where Alex is coming from, and Taya, this is why there's such a big backlash. A lot of it, and again, you can say it's the gamers, but it's led by people who are either artists or working in the creative side who feel threatened. Because I saw Kotaku, I saw almost every single influencer big publication calling this AI slop. Not a single publication. And unfortunately, I feel sorry for DF because they were the only ones that were optimistic about this, and they sort of, like, led with it, and they were the guys that were first out the gate. Were there any outlets that you saw that reacted positively to this?
No, well, there was none that was going to react positively to this, because as soon as this came out, it was attacked. So even if you were writing an article that was going to be like, "Oh, this actually looks pretty cool," you were just going to bin it, straight away. Like, you're just going to bin it.
Because of engagement.
I think what I find very interesting is you have situations where you're right. The artists and all these people they feel threatened. They're not happy, but I don't know if this is true, but, like, they've managed to get the consumer niche fan base online to take up the mantle and fight their war for them.
Yep.
And I almost put it to some extent akin to people kind of going against what's their own interest, right? Consumers. AI will make things, it should in theory make things cheaper. I'm not talking about, whatever people want to call slop. But they're just advancements in technology, the advancements in allowing young creators to use AI to help develop that game. You might not have the expertise in creating art. And I have a friend, I was speaking about this with him, and his response was always just like, doesn't matter, go hire an artist. It's like, what? Go hire an artist. It's like, I'm like, what if you can afford it? He goes, doesn't matter. And I'm like, you're putting these people's jobs, or these people whose the jobs exist from an entertainment point of view. You're putting their jobs over the ability for you to create something. Because if you wanted to create a story right now, and you wanted to use AI to help you with, and let's not get it twisted. I'm not saying AI should just type in, create a character for me. If you're somebody who's very creative and you just don't have the finances to, to maybe code properly, to maybe hire certain things, AI can assist you. And I think that's what AI is. It's an assistant tool. But the idea like that shouldn't exist because, well, somebody in the creative space might lose. Listen, technology happens and people do lose jobs. That's just what happens. The fact that like my job has become more streamlined has meant the company didn't need that many employees anymore. People got let go. Like nobody was crying for my employees, but it's just weird. Like gaming online and the entertainment and all these niche eco industries are just, they're very strange to me.
I hear you. I hear you. I sort of understand where this comes from, and again, it's a different conversation in regards to like it would take up. We could have 3 hours just talking about that, like that conversation in terms of like how did we get to the sort of environment in gaming where we are now, where everything always seems so highly charged up, and we can't just have like civil discourse about these sort of things. And there's a lot of elements to that. Like I think there's predatory behavior on parts of the company in some extent, or part of the corporates. So sort of like monetize things, grow things like AI, especially if those things are being prioritized by the organization as the primary focus. And this is not necessarily what the core audience is looking for, but they're looking at the bigger audience to say, well, you know what? Everyone else will jump on board if we just do this 1, 2, 3 things. On the other side, I understand that, of course, you want the industry to grow, you want your organization to grow, you want your shareholders to be happy, and then you have obligations to meet. Okay, cool. I'm just going to play a little bit more, and then, we'll move on. I just want to...
anything from DLSS, mainly because they were machine learning techniques about helping aspects of the maths. And here it's more like doing the entire scene over again in a lot of ways, which is so new and so radically different.
Oliver, what do you make of this?
Well, with regards to Grace in particular, I think that's a legitimate problem. And the fact that they led with Grace, I thought it was fairly provocative in terms of the introduction at GTC from Jensen Huang, and also in terms of the presentation to us. They led with that Grace face, and my immediate thought was that looks a little bit different than what I remember from Grace, even in the path-traced version of Resident Evil 9. There are some NPCs that do look quite a bit better, and maybe you have less familiarity with how they look normally, like random NPCs on a bench in Starfield or couch-bound NPCs.
There you have it, Richie. You're on the money. Look at that freaking
Hogwarts Legacy, but the kind of yassified Grace face, not so promising there. And it seems to reveal a weakness of this approach, or maybe the facial likeness is lost in certain situations, certain lighting. Again, it does not have very many inputs from the game engine.
Okay.
It does not have
So I'll stop with it. The reason I'll stop with it is because they just talk about the same thing, which is the stuff that you just hinted on in the faith. Like they are looking, and again, this is not where my critique would be. My critique will always be, so what is the cost on the gamer for this technology? How is this going to impact the person that plays on the next generation Xbox, on the next generation PlayStation 5, on the next generation of hardware for Nvidia and AMD? Like, if these technologies, like I would be 100% for all these technologies if they were not being used in a way to further monetize consumers unfairly. And what I mean by that is graphics card costs have gone up. The actual technology that they put into the actual graphics cards has gone down. They don't spend that much time on the actual R&D for the hardware. All they're doing is just they're tweaking the DLSS software to do all these tricks, but you're not getting real hardware performance from your games anymore if you're a PC gamer. So that is my pushback against this type of stuff, is that like, well, it just means that I'm going to get less out of my hardware and I'm going to rely more on tricks from AI that don't necessarily work on older hardware or weaker hardware as well as they would if you buy the top line of that hardware.
But wasn't that
That's
always the case with video games?
No, but like my thing is, in the past, right, your card, the power of your card was not limited by things like, or technologies like ray tracing. Even if you had like a 5090, it means that you got the best performance out of those graphics. However, your card did not rely, because the best way I can put it is that like how Nvidia is improving so this is what happens, right? My card is technically more powerful than a 4060. My card is a 3060. Technically, on paper, the hardware is better hardware than a 4060. But what they've done is they've added frame generation to a 4060 to make it outperform my card, and then they put a $50 markup on it. They've not changed the hardware radically. They've just added software to optimize a newer card that's not as good as my card. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's like, best example I can give you is having like, for instance, like if you take the steam machine, having a machine like the steam machine that is weaker, and then you just use wizardry to make it perform or make it look like it's performing at the same level as, say, the Xbox Helix, just by using trickery. That's an exaggeration, but like that's exactly that's pretty much what I'm saying, is that like they're not innovating on the actual technology of the hardware. They're just tweaking the software. But like I put it to you, my card probably, like just with a software update, could probably run the latest version of frame generation. But they won't put it on there because they still want to sell the newer cards without actually improving the card technically.
I'll pose it to you. Is it really a case of, for example, right, when the Switch 2 was coming out, and I was watching some videos, people talking about like, what the Switch 2 can do. And I think you even said this as well. And I was saying how like, okay, well, this is what the Switch 2 can do. And you are the one who actually pointed out, along with some other videos, that, excuse me, it's not just about the power. It's actually about the underlying technology in the software that allows you to do things. Some of those things could be FSSR, which could actually compensate. So you have a Series S, which on the ground level, which on the basic level is more powerful than the Switch 2, but because the Switch 2 has certain inbuilt technologies that allows the software to do certain things, you might not even see the difference as much. In fact, maybe the Switch 2 might even look better based off that. So I guess my question is, if a company comes out with a card that is maybe just 10% more powerful, however, it has underlying technology that allows you to actually, go to upscale to 4K. It has all these other like extra mechanics that makes it like great visually and makes it look like you're playing at 60 frames per second. Is the argument that no, you should still make it cheaper then? Like, why are you charging me $90, even if the performance itself warrants that?
And then this again, like this is a real rabbit hole, because my problem is this, like my whole issue with that is that, so you're gimping the existing technology can do that. All you have to do is give me a driver update on my older technology. But what you're doing is you're gimping. It's like me saying, well, you know what? All the PS5 Pro was a software update. Technically, we just upped the software a little bit.
Well, no, because I guess this is the part where I'll probably need to know, because if the question is the older cards can do it, however, they don't want to update it.
Yeah,
I think that'll be the question that I think if I know the answer to that, then I'll be able to kind of proceed forward. But what I do know for example, that you know, to do this thing, yeah, there's like it takes like 250-70s, right? And they're trying to get it down to just one. Is the argument that, excuse me, I've been drinking a lot. Is the argument that like, well, your 40-60 and your 30-70 can also do this as well?
Yeah,
Because
but the thing is
like
that
Nvidia is going to say no, it can't, because not only can it do it, because it's like just from a hardware point of view, it's weaker. The underlying tech inside it will not allow it to do that, because then they'll say, okay, then why can't the Switch One do FSSR and all these other like you know gimmicky things that like we all talk about? Why can't it do it? It's because the underlying technology itself doesn't have the ability to do those things.
Yeah, so like a lot of the guys that are much better than me at PC are very adamant that like the likes of like the 30 series, especially the more powerful cards on the 30 series, because someone else has done it. Ironically, a third-party small company has been able, like for instance, to introduce frame generation for older cards like the 3060. And who's this? Nvidia's direct competitor, AMD, allows you to run frame generation on your card using just a software update from their drivers using your card. But Nvidia, you can't run their version of frame generation, and they'll cite all sorts of like excuses like, no, you need this sort of tech and whatever. But the bottom line is that people have proven that you can run a version of that technology without needing a hardware upgrade. And the reason why they say that is because they look at the spec and they say this is not revolutionary hardware. All these guys did is they tweaked the hardware, but they just don't want to tweak the current hardware because they're not going to make sale from it. Like they want to still make sure that you jump on and pay an additional $100, $200, $300 for the latest card, but it's literally just a software tweak. But anyways, that's a discussion that that's a very, very long rabbit hole.
Yeah, fair enough.
And Vincent, you tell me, because Vincent is a much more seasoned PC guy than I am. If I'm not mistaken, there in my assessment of like the difference, like for instance, between a 3060 12 gig and a 4060 8 gig, and like what was the like a 4060 8 gig can run frame generation which can quadruple what it's capable of, yet it's a far weaker card technically than a 3060 in terms of like it's got less RAM, etc., less bus width and all that type of stuff. But yeah, we can get really into the trenches when it comes to PC gaming, but I hear where you're coming from. But yeah, anyways, the next thing I want us to talk about is the game that you're looking at here. And I still agree. I'm looking at, is it Sarah? Is her name Sarah?
Mm-hmm.
That DLSS 5 really did give her a glow up. She looks so fantastic with that technology.
Yeah.
So Ty, let's talk about Mass Effect. You can tell where my mind is. Let's talk about the Starfield update. I had this conversation with you earlier. Are you excited about this? Is this something that you're looking forward to? Are you going to get the update? I don't know when it goes live. I think some people were saying that they've already experienced it. I mean, Colt, being the Xbox fanboy that he is, he thinks it's the second coming. He even calls it Starfield, which was why I labeled this episode Starfield 2.0. Yeah, so let's start with your initial thoughts.
Okay, so there's 2 points here really, and one of them is the Free Lanes updates.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah, go ahead.
So there's 2 things, right? I do have a video from IGN queued up.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to just talk, or do you want us to just go through this?
I'll speak generally about it, and then if we need to go into the IGN video, we can do that as well. So there's 2 things. So there's the Free Lanes update, and then there's the actual DLC game that's been that's been announced. So with the Free Lanes updates, this is basically just all of the requests and ask that the community has been asking from Bethesda to input into the game to make the game a better experience. It was never going to change the game fundamentally. The game is still going to be Starfield. It's just a case of all these cons or all these aspects that weren't great that you offer to us. How do you make it better? So for an example, could be base building. I don't like base building. It doesn't affect the game for me, but there's people out there who like base building. How about you make it easier for them, right? So they've included new methods to streamline it for those guys. Perfect. Ship battling, right? I'm a crazy fan of it, but okay, it's in the game. How do you make it better? Well, how about we give you better perks to make the battles more interesting and better? And how about we give you tools to amend certain damage options? Now, I think they already did that in the past, but that's another example of that. Special abilities, the combat is fun. It's good. It's Bethesda's best shooting or probably the best combat. But how do you make it more interesting? Well, how about the special abilities when you kill the Starborn? Now you can use it to upgrade, because before you had to go into the Unity to do that, which involved just sacrificing your whole gear and everything else. Once again, they also changed that as well. Okay, they understood that like players don't like that. So there are all these little incremental changes that makes the game just overall tolerable or better, or if you like those elements, they've now been improved. And the biggest change here for many people is now the ability to fly between planets. So if you're going into a solar system, you still got your loading screen, cool. But now that you're in that solar system, you can actually fly directly towards other planets. So if you're in the if you're in a solar system, for example, you can go from Earth to Mars to Jupiter, etc., without any loading screens, and that's where things gets really, really interesting. In that mode, you can go into the cruise section, which allows you just to cruise away. You can get off your seat, walk around, go talk to your colleagues, go work on your weapon mods, do whatever you want to do, which makes it a lot more immersive. So perfect. That is one step. And to be honest with you, the fact that they've done that shows you that, hey, they really are listening to what the fan base out there wants. Richie says, Starfield player, the game is so bad. I just played 500 hours on it. It was like Skyrim where I spent 2,000 hours. And Vincent Vega, if they still have to load in screens every door, they can F off. That is true. That is something that I think that they should be fixing. That's why I don't think this is going to be perfect. The perfect upgrade, because for me, I would say for loading screen door, how about just do what Star Wars Jedi Survivor did, or do what The Last of Us does, where you have the door kind of half open or whatever, and you just show your character animation opening the door and then closing it or whatever. Like that would be okay.
But like, I'm not mistaken in saying bigger games have launched with almost no existence, especially with SSD technology, with almost non-existent load times, especially open world games. Especially in some.
I think the problem you have is the underlying tech that they've used, that they've built upon. That'll be the first. I think it'll be the first issue. Two, if you were to ask Bethesda to make a Breath of the Wild game, they probably laugh and say, "Of course we can do that." No, like we made Skyrim, Fallout. Like, who do you think we are? We can do well more than that. However, if you were to ask Nintendo, who made Breath of the Wild, to make a Starfield-like game, they probably couldn't do it. They're like, nope, there's too much technological hurdles here, and there's too many moving parts. There's this planet, that planet, then like you have the planet section, then you have the space section, then you have the combat layered on top of that. There's too much things going on that we need to connect them in a specific way. So we need, when this closes up, this has to load up and then load up. And Nintendo might struggle with actually like connecting all those things together. But who knows? Nintendo might be smarter than Bethesda and say, yeah, but players don't want a loading screen. So we're going to find a way around that, right? But ultimately, the update for anyone who's interested in Starfield or who still likes the idea of Starfield, the update will be probably, like, to me, one of the best things about the game. To go back, and then you have the new DLC, which also looks good as well. And beyond all that, what I'll say about them is that they've done a great job of marketing, because the fact that this game is coming on the PS5 and you're charging just $50, and then you're charging 70 for all the DLC, everything, $70. That's a really good deal for Starfield, and that's going to bring a lot of people inside. And because there's going to be a lot of people inside Starfield from the PS5 version, there's going to be some momentum in making you, who's an Xbox player or PC player, want to check it out, because everyone's talking about it too as well. And I think for the PS5 players, particularly them, they're getting a game that it's a good game with flaws, and those flaws have been mitigated a lot. The driving is there. It's not going to make the exploration any better, but it makes it a lot more tolerable, right? They've brought new cars now. There's a new car that allows you to just like fly and levitate. That's going to be fun. It's going to make, get into some high places better. They've brought new points of interest. So for those players out there who played the game on launch day, who felt like, hey, I'm seeing something over and over and over again, well, now that's going to be less of a problem, right? The special abilities, hunting them down and know that you can upgrade them is going to make you want to explore more, and it's going to make you want to fight the starboard more. So they've done these things that just incremental bits here, like, in different sections, that's overall made the game just a better experience. And that's why I believe this game should definitely score between 84 to 87 on Metacritic, like for the PS5 version. If you're just a new PS5 player who's never played Starfield before and you're playing it now, and you get the $70 version with all the DLCs and stories, because I would even give you another example, like the Shattered Space as a DLC is not good for $30. It just isn't good. But you take Terran Armada, and from what I've seen from it, it looks good with all the guns and everything, and a new faction. Then you bring in the other faction from Shattered Space. It's a really good deal. Like, it really is. And I will put this to you. If you played Starfield now, you never played it before, you played it now, I think you'll give it a higher score. Me and you wouldn't love it as much still, because the fundamental problems that you don't like about it is still there, and same for me. But overall, it's a lot more tolerable experience.
No, I agree. Look, I think, and I'm curious, like, because I said to you, like, I think the most or the highest score that, like, the PlayStation audience, what I mean by that is, like, the publications and whoever are going to give this game is probably going to be 84. I don't see it scoring significantly more than what it did on Xbox. And again, like, I've just always looked at the trend of Xbox, and then this very well as well. Xbox exclusives versus, say, PlayStation exclusives. The trend is always against Xbox exclusives in terms of, like, ratings. Even if, like, games that I thought were like literally shoe-ins for 9 out of 10 or 90%, like, they just don't score as well when they are put onto, like, the PlayStation platform versus the Xbox platform. And I'm not just talking about first-party games. I'm also talking about, like, third-party games. Certain third-party games tend to score worse if they don't meet that visual expectation from the PlayStation audience. So I really think that regardless how good this game is, visually, the presentation, let me say the presentation is going to hurt it somewhat on PlayStation. Because even if I go back to the other games that they've released on PS4 and PS5, Bethesda, none of them were close to being 9 out of 10s. They all around 8. And I think it's because of that inherent bias.
I think we'll disagree a little bit. Because I do believe, like, while I do think there is something that PlayStation players like, cinematic great experiences. I think Starfield is unique enough and does a lot of different things that is going to make them look a little bit different. Like Fallout 4 wasn't a great looking game, like it had its problems, but it still sold well on PlayStation. Like, you know, I think you recognize.
Yeah, but like,
we're trading.
no, I'm not talking about sales.
Mhm.
I think it's gonna sell well.
Oh, like
There's
reviews.
no game like it. I'm talking just about reviewers.
So okay, so what I'll say here is this: if the reviewers are primarily because most reviewers would already played Starfield, right? They would already given it a score. So if the reviewers are specifically PlayStation centric reviews, like, you know, PlayStation Magazine or whatever it is. Yeah, Push Square, maybe there's a better argument there. I believe, yeah. But I think that the people who are gonna be like reviewing it, like I just gonna review this game as well. Again, I don't think they're gonna look at it that way. They're just gonna review for what it is. Same thing for GameSpot, same thing for pretty much all the reviewers, pretty much. I don't know if there's that many single-handed PlayStation review centric place. So I don't know. I'm not too sure. I still think it like. I guess it'll be interesting because I still think it'll be between 84 and 87, maybe 83 to 87. It's just like there's just a lot of content here, and I think if you really do get the $70 version, I guess I'm trying to think to myself, like, what other game out there is giving you 2 DLCs, all this additional updates, you know, for 70. I think it's a really good deal, to be honest. And I'm not gonna lie, I saw the new guns for the new Starfield game. Sorry, for the Terran Armada DLC, and those guns look fantastic. Like, honestly, those are the guns that I would have just loved to have in the game. It would have made it so much more interesting. You see right now on the screen, you know, the ship did a little, you know, it went invisible, and you're seeing things like this weapon targeting, computer optimization. Like, these are the little things that this game should have had from the very get-go that would have made it a lot more tolerable, but they didn't have these things, you know. Even the maps, remember, there was no maps in the game.
Yeah.
Like, there was no maps in the game, and now it's there, and the map is actually pretty good. So yeah, Outpost as well. I saw what they did with the Outpost, and in terms of like, hey, we have these new modules you can use to like look at this, you know. I'm not crazy about this, but I've mentioned this to your friends, that people out there who love these kind of things, they love building, they love creating, and they have something new as well, which I always felt like this game was missing. They have collectibles. You know, I always like one of the things you always pointed out to me is, like you said, RPGs should have romances. Not just because they're cool, it's because there's an online community that love these characters and romances, and if you can romance them, they'll love it. Same thing to you about base building. If you're gonna put base building there, do it, because there's a lot of people out there who love building these things. And collectibles, people there who love collectibles, and now you have these collectibles on screen. And if you know, if it's like hey, there's 200 of them around the galaxy, there's people out there who's gonna want to fly around the galaxy to find these things, and they will love the challenge. You know what I mean? They will love the challenge of looking for these toys, you know, and then they'll put it up like on their base, you know, on their house, and they'll screenshot it and put it up online on the Starfield Reddit page. You know, like, this is like when Starfield is done and everyone's finished it, the people who keep the game alive are the people who are like this, who love the romances, who love base building. So to keep a game alive, put all these things inside 100%. But they didn't do enough. They just, like, what they did was like, well, you can go to this planet and take pictures of a, you know, sunset or whatever it is. Now they even have emojis. You're in your car, you can press a button and your character does like all these like, to me, I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing now, and this is great. It probably isn't for me, but for everyone of the people who stayed there, and for the new players coming in, PlayStation players, yes, this is perfect for them. I think this is fantastic marketing.
No, I hear you, and I agree with everything that you said.
Sorry, Richie said this. Richie says Starfield. First of all, he says, Ty, what are your thoughts about the KOTOR HK47 clone, the Mako copycat, and Dogo? It's great. I think these are fantastic. But the next thing he says Starfield, listen to me. 13.5. They announced Maria as a new companion. That goth girl from New Atlantis. Yes, people like this chick. Like you probably don't really know her about shows. I don't really know her too much, but there are people who actually liked her, and they're like, "Oh, it'd be great. She could be a companion." Now she's a companion. There's a new companion. She's like a goth kind of girl. I don't think she's that hot, so maybe that's why you don't really know her too much. But
okay, wait. He says like, Ty, what are your thoughts about Koto HK? What is that? HK47.
a gun, no, like a
Oh, I would not know. Okay, and what MI Meko copycat? What is this? Oh, MI1 Meko.
it's a new like I think it's a new
The
car.
vehicle.
Yeah, the new
Oh,
vehicle.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The game has pets now as well.
Oh,
In the game.
this thing.
Yeah. You know, the game has pets now in the game as well.
I saw that thing. That's why I was asking, like, what the fuck is that thing on the floor?
But again, you know, one of the things like you saw with Star Wars Outlaws as well, so like there are people who like these kind of cute little. Oh, this is the character, yeah. This is her. So she's a new companion now as well, and I think these are also new companions. So now you got new companions, and did you see this as well?
What's that?
The enemy variety tricky.
The what?
So basically, enemies, it's now more of an RPG game. So some enemies have certain perks about them. So there's an enemy that's let's say has a berserk trait. Like if you kill this enemy, every enemy gets more enraged and maybe gets like a health boost. Or for example, maybe you can there's just like special items that you can now find and attach to your weapons. So and maybe it could be like randomly, maybe after like the fourth clip or whatever it is, you get an extra clip, or maybe your weapons become stronger or whatever. Like they're making it more like our RPG like, which again makes it more interesting. There are people out there who want to build amazing guns that are very, you know, interesting, or guns that have different abilities. There you go. Like they've done a good job just from like the eye test on what this thing is. And I think having a faction like this that is, you know, like Clone Wars, like, you know, Star Wars, where the robots are the ones that are coming through. And keep in mind, all this is within the story of Starfield. So if you're doing the main mission, now you can go do this mission, which looks interesting. You could go do Shattered Space mission, which is also interesting. It has there's just so much content now, and I think that content is actually good content. So yeah, Starfield. The only issue that I think the game probably still has is I think it doesn't do a great job at telling you that this is a game you need to play like Mass Effect as opposed to Skyrim. I think
it's never I don't think that was ever the intention. This was always supposed to be like the pitch was Skyrim in space, but it ended up being more like Fallout 4 in space. Just with a lot of the even Fallout 4 already softened RPG elements even more taken down, which is why
so these are the guns I'm talking about. Like I saw this and I was like, oh man, I want these guns. Like these are what I would have loved instead, you know. I think what Starfield should have done is they should have like amended the start a little bit, and they should have actually handheld you and say, nope, you're not going to be able to like do these crazy exploration things. First of all, you need to do this first, do this, and do that. So instead of even giving you a ship, they should have had Barrett actually just make you like fly to certain places and you couldn't go off course or whatever it is. And then I've always kind of said this before, you should have experienced the special abilities much faster. They should make that mandatory, because I think that makes the gameplay a lot more interesting. And second of all, what they should have done is they should have had you maybe fighting in 0G, in a 0G, like in a space, you know, ship or whatever, like in a space station, much earlier, because that's a very cool feature that I didn't experience until much later on. Why? why are you showing me these features much later on? Show me your best bits now, and then once you've done all your best bits, let me go explore. But yeah, that's how I would have made the game a lot better.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go to the comments because there's been just quite a few. So I'm gonna go quite a bit back. Vincent says, there's also a problem where PSI 4 cards run only 8 times in lanes. Okay, cool. And people do use them on the PSI 3 motherboards, which would limit the bandwidth. Okay, cool. So he was basically just responding to my question about the 3060 versus the 4060 when it comes to graphics cards. Then Reggie says Starfield save files are super heavy, which maybe could explain some of the loading. When you sync saves with another device takes forever. Delete save files to fix that problem. Okay, that's an interesting solution. I never thought of that. And then let's go up a little bit more, or down actually. Let's go down. Okay, so you did answer that. Okay, Starfield listened to me. 13.5. They announced that Moria has the new companion. Okay, cool. I have no idea who that is. Not my type of girl. But yeah, Tai, you have an idea who that is, right?
Yeah.
Do you like? What's her name?
No,
Miria.
no, yeah, no. I don't care about like.
Is that your?
I've seen her around, but like, don't really care. It's just the game has so like there's man. The sad thing about Starfield really is that if they had streamlined Starfield, it would be so much of a better game.
Yeah.
Like so much better. Like Starfield has some really good side missions, like Planet. I think it's called Planet Seed. There's the one where the two factions are fighting each other. I won't go into spoilers. There's some really interesting stories there, and I think these stories need to be something that needs to be part of the main game. And if you're not part of the main game, you need to be able to like witness them so much faster. Wait, what's
yeah. So the is the fact that like in the previous Bethesda games, the side missions, just like in The Witcher 3, like, and this is something that Rachie also brought up, just like in The Witcher 3, you can experience, and it's just how you put like the stuff around in the game. You can experience the side quest first. It might take you, even in Cyberpunk, it might take you like 20 hours before you even start playing the main quest. But the side quests are so good that they get you gripped. This is why people hated or didn't like Fallout 4 as much. They didn't like Starfield as much, because it forces you to play the main story. Whereas Bethesda games are meant to be the sort of games, okay, cool, what's the main quest? Okay, I need to go to the grocery store, get bread, and okay, cool, I'll do that. On your way to buy bread, you end up running into an NPC who lost their horse or something or whatever, and then you end up getting sidetracked for 13 hours. It's even in the series. They even put it in the Fallout series that when in the wasteland, you will get sidetracked by bullshit. But that bullshit is what Bethesda fans like. So all the stuff when you were going through, like, you were listing all the things that they've changed. A lot of that stuff, when I listened to what you were saying, is meant to appeal to probably Bethesda fans. Which is why they didn't focus on things like story, which for me would have been, a big plus. And they focused on things like points of interest and all these other RPG things that you mentioned. I think there's a huge market, or there's a huge section of Bethesda fans that care about that stuff and they want to see that stuff. And that's why they focused on that for this for this upgrade. And a lot of people are gonna agree with what you're saying, and they're gonna love all that stuff, and it's gonna make the game more worthwhile for them.
Mm-hmm. No, for sure. Like, because even I look at it, and I think I saw the Truckers Alliance, and I played it, and I was like, man, like now there's a bounty system in the game, and you go and you can hunt people down, and some of them have like their own little story quests, and I think Bethesda's also like included like 5 more into it as well, like 7 bounty missions. And again, if those stories are written well, like it's great. And people are saying how like, oh, it'd be nice if we had a rig where we could put people in our ship. They've done a really good job at kind of updating the game. I think it needs to be faster. I think they need to do more of these things. But I think this patch makes sense for the PS5 version. Yeah. The reason why I am to the point you were saying earlier on, Richie says if things happen faster, that would have made things better. So to what Richie is saying, and to what you've said about Starfield, about the side quests being so different, I think the reason why you need to incorporate the side quests into some of the main stories, or make the side quests a lot, like you need to kind of throw it in people's faces, is because the actual exploration part of Starfield is shockingly bad.
Yes, no, it's the weakest part of the game. Yeah.
I think there's too many elements that makes it difficult. Even like, so I don't want to blame Bethesda per se. There's just too many elements that make it difficult. I can go on a horse in Skyrim or The Witcher and just ride. And every Skyrim fan will tell you that like something happens there, and then you go and check it out. And I'm riding my horse, and I press a button, and I get off the horse. Or if some bandits are around, they have horses too, I can attack them from my horse. Like everything is so easy. It transitions to each other very, very well. But with Starfield, it's, well, now you're in space. Then you gotta open up the map, and then loading screen takes you here. And then there's an anomaly, or there's enemies to fight with your ship. Then once you kill them, then you have to go down to the planet. Now it's a whole new game section. And now, but the planet's basically barren. There's like one point of interest there, so there's nothing to really to like.
Yeah,
it feels so disjointed, and because it feels so disjointed, the exploration sucks so bad. However, if you put the like all the side points and stories together around the same location, and I just go from place to place to place. No, I don't mean by ship. If you have 5 story points in one planet, and you're telling me that I can drive from, I made a video on this. If you can drive from, mission, side story mission 1 to side story mission 2, side story mission 3, side story mission 4, and in between those points of those story points, there's points of interest like bandits or whatever it is, it makes it so much better. But unfortunately, they didn't do that.
True. Like, so my experience with Bethesda, my favorite Bethesda game of all time is Skyrim. Second favorite is probably Starfield, because I never played a lot of Fallout 4. I was never a Fallout guy. I'm not a post-apocalyptic type of guy. It's not my favorite fantasy setting. So Skyrim had a lot of the, like, to me, when you said Skyrim in space, I understood the pitch. But the game is a very, very different, like an execution, very, very different. So I can tell you the reason, and you know this, and Raichi, Fuzzy, Vincent, everyone knows this. The reason why they couldn't build it like that is because of this ambitious, and this is the same, I don't understand why they didn't learn from Mass Effect Andromeda. This thing of having like 100, 1,000 procedurally generated planet is a horrible idea. It's not great because of the fact that back then, when these games were being developed, procedurally generating worlds means that your worlds are not going to be that dynamic. There's not going to be that much options. The best parts of Mass Effect, the best parts of any Bethesda games is the handcrafted parts, where developers went in and they decided to populate a world with NPCs that feel like real people, a world that's lived in. And I think that is one of the things that a lot of Bethesda fans feel that Bethesda has lost. And if they had, just to your point, and we've had this conversation, if they'd reduced this to a solar system with like 7 to 10 planets that are very, very richly detailed that you can travel in between, or 7 or 10 planets that are not even in the same solar system, but like those are the key ones that all your, that the worlds that you're going to be exploring, even on that first world. Even if you did a lot of like immediately after you leave the mine, you can just wander around and discover factions and do all that. I really believe that the core fans or the core Bethesda fans would have bought in and would have hailed Starfield as the second coming. And to Raichi's point, he raised something very important earlier on about the fact that Starfield fans are the sort of guys that says, well, I played 500 hours, this game sucks. The reason they played 500 hours is because a lot of them were waiting for that Bethesda moment to click. The moment you're like, oh shit, I'm 5 hours doing like side quests and I haven't even started the main mission, and it just never clicked for a lot of people. 10 hours in, I don't know about 500 hours in, but I think that's why a lot of people played so much of the game, because they were expecting that Bethesda magic to happen at some point in the game, and it just never materialized.
I think they forgot that it's a role-playing game. It seems like they were going for some kind of role-playing simulation instead, and that's where I think it got hurt. So, an example that I think I might have sent this quote to you, where they said you go into the Unity and you lose everything, and they're like, yeah, you know what, you go into the Unity, it's cool, you lose everything, but from a gaming point of view, is that really wise? Like, from a philosophical point of view, the idea of like, if you go into this new universe, you have to start fresh. You know what I mean? It's asking you an interesting question. And this is somebody trying to be creative, somebody telling you a story, somebody making you think about your decision. It's perfect in that sense, from an artistic point of view. But from a gaming point of view, which is what you are, a video game, does it make sense to tell me that I put 400 hours into this mode and all of a sudden all my guns, all my weapons, my ships gone?
So just to give you, like, because you're talking about unities here and all type of, I don't even know what the freak, I never even got to the unity. I don't even know what the fuck that is. Like, like I'm just, Unity, what the fuck was that? Is that like a thing in the game? Like, where do you find that? Because I think I did tell you that, like, I ended up after a certain, I think after like a good, geez, I've got like over 80 hours in Starfield, 80 to 100 hours. But after like 50 hours, no, after like 25 or 30 hours, I just started ignoring, because I don't like the constellation and all that. Like, it bores the shit out of me. I just started doing the side missions with the different factions. And I found so much value in those little stories and all that than I did in the main story. So I don't even know. But I did get to the point where the whole Starborn thing starts, where you have to hide that thing from the Starborn. You have to decide where to put it. And then they just show up spontaneously and start attacking you.
Terrible
I did get
villains.
that far into the story.
Terrible villains.
Yeah.
Do you know what?
Yeah,
like,
no, they don't play.
like,
They're like
it's-
the way.
Go on.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, the way that they play, Tai, is that I get what they're trying. You know, like, have you watched Captain America: Winter Soldier?
Yeah.
So, is it the Winter Soldier? Yeah. So in Captain America: Winter Soldier, the Winter Soldier just randomly, like, Captain America will be on a mission doing something, and then the Winter Soldier just shows up nowhere and just starts attacking people. And I think that's the sort of feel that they were going for, is that you're busy with your mission and these guys just show up. But this, like, Bethesda is not very good at set pieces. They're not as good as, say, like, for instance, a BioWare. BioWare is very good at set pieces. For instance, BioWare's Mass Effect 1 works so well that you've never played Mass Effect 1. That intro section of Mass Effect 1 works so well because of set pieces. Mass Effect 2, the suicide mission at the end, it works so well because of good set pieces. When you're busy building your team there at the end and you're deciding who you're gonna send where, you don't know the dangers. But they've built the set pieces in such a way that they respond to the decisions you've made throughout the game. Who's more loyal to you? That will determine who survives and who lives. But this is like, BioWare has this. They've mastered that to a T back in the day, and Bethesda's just never been good. The one good set piece that Bethesda pulled off brilliantly was the dragon attack in the beginning of Skyrim, and actually all the dragon attacks in Skyrim, they were spontaneous. You'd be on a mission. There they pulled off set pieces. They just failed to do that here. Because the Starborn, I think, in their mind, was supposed to be like the dragons.
The Starborn review was shockingly bad, terrible. You're right. It should have been some cinematic. It should have made it better. It should have been more overbearing. It should have like caused some kind of dread. I should have been afraid. I should have wanted to like escape.
100%. Yeah.
It even should have been a situation where maybe it shouldn't have been on the ship. It should have been, I'm in some kind of cave, and then they arrive, and they're just like blowing shit up, and they're crazy powerful, and everyone's like, we need to run, and then we start running, and and then we get to our ship, and they follow us into space. Like I should have been afraid.
Yeah.
I wasn't. The Starborn's motive, no, it should have changed. It shouldn't have been that. Here's why
I don't know, like, so don't spoil it, because I don't know, like, I've not finished that arc.
Okay, no, okay, so, I'm not spoiling what it is. I'm just telling you that I have a better motive for them. Here's what the motive should have been.
Yeah.
It's not really a spoiler because it's a good way. It should have been that the Starborn is from a different universe, and in that universe, this individual didn't like how things was going in his life or whatever reason. So he created something or some tech or whatever it is to go into a different universe and then take the life of that person's universe, like his version of himself. Maybe it was for love, right? Because maybe in his universe, his partner passed away. So now he wants her back this way. But in this new universe, this person is poor. So he's thinking to himself, okay, I kind of got the girl, but she thinks I'm weird because obviously she grew up with this other person who was whatever. So she's not believing me and she's catching something is on. And in that universe, she finds out like it's not him, and then she tries to fight him and kill him, and then he ends up killing her by accident because she's trying to kill him because she killed her husband. Then he has to go to another universe. So he keeps jumping through universes to try to find the perfect life. But in the process of doing that, for whatever reason, he kills someone who wants revenge. So now he's being hunted for whatever reason. He's been hunted by this other person who found out who he really is. And I think that makes having them two in your own universe, and you could make up a new story as to why that person is there. Is he there because he wants to kill you because the more Starborn he kills, the more powerful he gets, so that he can kill this other person who's hunting him down as well? Like there's many ways you can kind of tell the story to make it make more sense and make it seem like they have a stronger motive, but the game failed to do that as well.
Yeah, I feel you on that. So Tiny, I think we've covered a good deal of these topics. I just want to do one thing here first. And I agree with you that there's a lot of tweaks that they could have made. But and again, I've been down this rabbit hole. And what I mean by rabbit hole is of the Bethesda fandom, because I'm a huge Fallout fan. The series, funny enough, I've not really endeavored. I've played Fallout 3, Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, but I've never really finished any of those games. I really quit way before the finishing mark. Same with Starfield. And so a lot of what you're saying, I think, is valid and would have made a huge difference, if they'd gone and made those tweaks. So this is what I'm gonna do, guys, because I'm just looking. We're 2 hours, 10 minutes in. We're gonna say to be continued because I really want to get into this Strauss Zelnick conversation, but I really want to sort of dive deep into it. I really want to just get some of his feedback, some of his his takes. He's got some really, really fascinating takes when it comes to gaming. And I wanted us to unpack a lot of that. So I don't want to finish this today, Tiny, because we still have another 2-3 topics. I say let's roll this over to Friday. At least then we have something to talk about on Friday as well, because I don't think there's going to be any major news stories that are going to come up in the next 3 days or the next 2 days. But yeah, anything else regarding Starfield that you want to add?
I think the pricing for the game is great. I think it's a shame that there's no Switch 2 version, but I think that'll come in the future. And I think, when that comes in the future, they should do what they did now, which is, drop with a huge patch as well. I ultimately think Starfield would be great if they could implement some kind of multiplayer co-op mode. That might be obviously technically challenging, but I think that would be something that they should do. Obviously, it's not going to be the priority list, right? There's so much things that they could do to make the game a better experience. But when you play games like Together Skyrim, it just you can just see how co-op can make this game so much better. Especially like in a huge open box game like this, like where you can play with your friends, you can explore. Like honestly, it'll make exploring better. Like if you and your friends have cars, you can drive around and you turn up the enemy encounters by like, I don't know, 300% or 200%, and then you all have these abilities, like, and you can go to space together. Hell yeah, Starfield is going to be like an amazing co-op fun experience. But doesn't make it happen, for sure. Also, one more thing, because the PS5 user base is now going to be there. It's going to mean that you're going to see a lot more mods being downloaded. And you're going to see a lot more like of these creators wanting to make more mods for the game. The more user base it has, the better the game will do. Starfield launching on the PlayStation 5 is good for Starfield, put it that way.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. The one point I want you to think about, and again, like I'm so tired of talking about Xbox, is, and I don't want you to answer this now because it's going to take us another 20 minutes to get into that. Do you think that with Starfield, and because the other thing I wanted to talk about, which we'll talk about on Friday, and then we'll cover this, is the changes, the upgrades that, since, and of course it's even before Asha, but like, some of the things that Xbox has seen since Asha has come in terms of like upgrades, what's happening with Game Pass, just an update on all that stuff. And are things changing? Are they becoming, are we starting to notice things becoming different from Xbox? So we'll dive into that there. So I just want to go into some of the comments that I might have missed. So this was you, Taye. You said, imagine if all of Starfield's content on 7 planets, each planet would have 10 story points and 20 points of interest with even more stories. I agree. A more focused game would have been better. And then Raichi also agrees there. Fuzzy says,
before you finish that point, it's like, when you play The Witcher or Skyrim, you think of like Novigrad, you think about Oxenfurt, you think about you think about all the main cities in all these games. I'm getting that mixed up now with Skyrim stuff or whatever it is. I think the problem that Starfield faces is that they try to do that with planets instead, but because these planets only have one thing about them that is good, aka a side story that's interesting, the planets feel like nothing. They don't make sense.
They're just empty worlds.
The planets are there to serve the story. But then that means the planet is useless beyond that. I think that, but then there's like 1,000 of them. So what's the point? Whereas if you have 10 stories, and I mean 10 good side stories, like Starfield does have all of these things. You have them on one planet, and you call that planet Valheim. Well, guess what? Valheim becomes a known planet within the Starfield lore and within the online spaces because that planet has all these great missions and they all tie in together.
Like one of the jokes when they were like talking about this is that like there'll be, and this was their boast of like how powerful this new creation engine was, that like we could literally create a planet that's just Skyrim. And I was like, yeah, right. But imagine that, right? Imagine that. Think about that. Like, and for me, this would be my pitch if I was working at Bethesda, is that imagine if you had a planet you go to, it's Skyrim. You have a planet you go to, it's Fallout 3. You have a planet you go through, it's New Vegas. You understand? Like basically saying every single entire world we've created, we're going to pack each planet with that amount of content. To me, that is now next generation mind-blowing shit.
And the loading screen would even be justified. You'd be like, I get it.
Yes, 100%. Nobody would complain about the loading screens, dude. If that's what you were offering, I'm going to the Skyrim planet where we're in the Middle Ages or whatever. Like, dude, and I'm not talking about the theme specifically. I'm just talking about a planet where you just get to do that many things. and it has a specific theme, and the people they live a specific way, specific transportation, specific weapons. That is to me next year. And again, it would have given the actual artist way more to focus on, because I really do feel that, and I've seen that with BioWare. The more you open the scope for a lot of devs, it's almost like they become paralyzed by because of the fact they're afraid, they don't know where to start. The games take a long time to actually get started because people don't know how to fill this world. Because when you come and pitch 1,000 planets to me, of course I get it. Like, what the fuck? You want me to fill 1,000 planets? But if you say 5 planets, you guys decide how you're gonna populate these planets.
And you would create 5 separate teams.
There you go.
And you say
That
for
is-
the next 4 years, this is you.
100%. That dude, that would be genius game development if they went to all these different teams within Bethesda and said, okay, you guys are gonna do this. You guys, dude, that would be amazing. And then you have just like a Todd Howard going in between, seeing how he's gonna, not even Todd Howard, I forget what the story guy's name is. And then he needs to then look at these planets and say, okay, cool. So in these planets that you've created, let's start creating or crafting for all these sort of people and characters that you've created. Let's now craft the stories that the players are going to participate in. And all he's responsible for, of course, is just the main story. Each of the guys that are making the planets have their own narrative director who's going to then focus on making the side stories and the points of interest and all that stuff exciting and interesting.
Exactly. So much like Starfield's the anger from Starfield. It reminds me of Starfield is like Hellblade 2 to me. So much potential.
Yeah.
The game isn't bad. It's good, but just like Hellblade 2, oh my god, I saw so much potential. You guys could have been a 10 out of 10 game of the generation kind of game. I feel like Hellblade 2 maybe not game of the generation, but Hellblade 2 could have definitely been like a God of War like game if they.
It could have been the contender to be a God of War killer.
Exactly, yeah, it could have been.
But
But
used to say back in the day about
but
Halo.
instead, just like maybe Starfield to an extent, they're like, oh, let's focus on artistry. You know what I mean? And then that was it.
It really does suck. But anyways, guys, thank you for joining us. I know we didn't go our usual 3 hours to 4 hours plus, but yeah, it's a weekday and ish. One has to go and
Get ready for work.
and get ready for work. But thanks for joining us, guys. Rachie, shout out, Fuzzy, Vincent. Am I missing anyone? I think that's everyone that was in the chat and everyone else that joined us. Guys, if you didn't hit the like button, please do so. If this was your first time here, please subscribe as well. Always an awesome pleasure having you guys here with us. Taye, since we've already told us what you've been working on, what have you been playing, and what are you looking forward to?
Before that, somebody just sent me a picture that's in terms of pre-orders list. Starfield Premium Edition is ranked 3rd on the PlayStation storefront after Crimson Desert.
Wow.
Crimson Desert. But also, the normal edition is also in the top 10, and it's ranked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
So Starfield Normal Edition is ranked 7 on the PlayStation storefront, and it's ranked 3 in terms of the Premium Edition. Now I don't know if this is the US or the UK or whatever it is, but it should bring in a good bit of cash for Xbox, and it should make everyone happy over there. In terms of what I'm doing, so go ahead.
No, so I was gonna say, I have no doubt that it's gonna perform financially very well. I think the only game that's gonna be Xbox game on PlayStation that's gonna be comparable to it is probably gonna be
Forza
Horizon 5.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think Sea of Thieves was 1 million so far, 2 million copy, 1 million, I believe. So I think Starfield will be the second best-selling Xbox ported game. But I mean, it's not really saying much though. Like what we're talking about, Avowed, Outer Worlds 2, Pentiment, Hi-Fi Rush. Like these games were.
Well, there's Indiana Jones as well. That was supposed.
Indiana Jones was never going to do those numbers. Like you don't just. I
And
mean,
also
it's
a new IP, so to speak. So yeah.
it's just it's the IP. The IP is not maybe as popular. That's number one. Number two, it's the type of game it is. It's an adventure action game. It's like it just reminds me of Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
Like there's a difference between Alan Wake 2 and Resident Evil 8. Is it 8? Yeah.
9.
Resident Evil 9, sorry. Like
Yeah.
you could say that they have similarities, and I'm sure you could say Indiana Jones. Oh, there's similarities. It's a adventure kind of game as well, but it's just different.
Yeah.
One of them is going to sell more. You can just tell by the feel of it, and the other one's going to sell less. But
Yeah.
anyway, that's a Friday topic.
Yeah. So yeah, you were saying what you're playing?
Nothing. I'm looking for a new game to play. Mobile games, gacha games, maybe.
So many games.
Maybe the Banishers on Xbox Game Pass. However, part of me is also thinking maybe I should just start watching TV again. Like Netflix and.
Oh, listen! If you are watching TV, guys, and this is a huge, big recommendation for me, make sure that you check out the Knights or A Night of the Seven Kingdoms by J.R. Martin on HBO. It's a part of the Game of Thrones universe. Brilliant! I loved the books. I haven't finished the series, but it's very short, 30-minute episodes. But it's got all that Game of Thrones goodness and then some. Highly recommend.
Yeah. I've heard good things about it too as well. So yeah, I'd recommend it too.
Yeah. So on my side, if you ask what have I been playing, I dusted off because I wanted to play a certain Mortal Kombat game. So I dusted off my Super Nintendo. As you can see, there's the classic controller right here. So this is from the Super Nintendo Mini. Love this console. Only to discover that I don't have Mortal Kombat 3 loaded on here. Sorry, Mortal Kombat 2 loaded on here. I actually have it on my Rogue Ally. And here I have Mortal Kombat 3. And again, I just wanted to feel what it feels like to play Mortal Kombat the old school style. So yeah, like I've been rediscovering my Super Nintendo collection on the Super Nintendo Mini, and that's been keeping me busy. Yeah, guys, but thank you for joining us. It's always awesome as always. I need to find a sign out. Like, what's a nice sign out, a way to sign off? Yeah. But for now, salute. Players out, and we will see you guys on Friday. If not on Friday, guys, because I do have something happening on Friday. If not on Friday, definitely later Saturday. But I'll give you guys an update on that. Cheers, everyone.
Ciao, guys.
Have a good one.